from Teachers Talk Radio. You can catch up with all our shows by visiting our YouTube channel or by listening back at ttradio.org. Don't forget to like and subscribe to enjoy more live education conversation from TTR. We hope you enjoy this show.
Outstanding and world-class vision and world-class this.
I'm a real leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole career reading books and chatting to people.
I just find the whole thing and the announcement, the way it's been announced, bizarre.
If you could move away from a model where teachers are so intensely focused.
Good morning. Hope you're okay. I'm a bit back to front today. That's how I'm feeling. You're listening to TT Radio. It is the Sunday breakfast with Finn. Are you having your brunch? Are you having for breakfast? Whatever you're doing, it's lovely to have your company this Sunday morning. We're going to be talking breaking the worry cycle today, and if the sun actually helps you in the classroom. All to come right here on TT Radio.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Just gone 9:02 on a Sunday morning. I do hope you're okay. It's the Sunday breakfast with Finn, and we are talking it out live on the radio. It's a real pleasure to have your company. If you do want to get in touch, just click the comments and send us a comment. Send us a like. It'd be lovely to just be with you.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TT Radio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
How am I sounding today? Sounding okay? Hope so. Well, we're talking breaking the worry cycle, so this should not be one of my worries, but the shoulds never really help, do they? When you leave the classroom and you're worried about something, the shoulds never really help. I should have done this, I should have said that, I should have taught this. It never really helps. So we're going to talk around how you actually break the worry cycle. Now, things do seem a little bit easier when it's sunny. Do you get what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Do you feel that way? Can you relate to that? Just when it's a little bit sunny, things just feel lighter. Things just feel easier. I'm going to put my glasses on. And the bean mask. Joking. Things just feel a little bit lighter, don't they? And I think I want your comments on that, because there's a reason why the summer term is just that little bit lighter. And it's not just because of workload. It's also because, of course, the bright sunshine in a British school that we get. The longest day of the year was yesterday. Did you stay up? Or no, was it today? Just shows you the research I do for this show. I do research the actual content of it. Just the opening bit, I'm a sort of a mess, as everyone's just woken up and I'm just talking on a Sunday. But it was the solstice, wasn't it? So, longest day we've had. Or having. Is it today? I better find that out during the news. I'm going to find that out during the news. So that also means I've just thought it's going to get darker again. We're on the roller coaster. We're going up and now it's going back down. But I suppose that's the topic, right? Breaking the worry cycle. The weather does help. But sometimes the most stressful problem that you have, if you don't know the outcome, it's harder to plan coping strategies, right? Because fretting doesn't help. Sure, the weather helps, but fretting doesn't. Worries do need to be managed. So we're going to talk about worries when it comes to uncertainty in and out of the classroom during today's show. As I said at the top of the hour, if you do want to get in touch, all you got to do is send a message via the comments box, and it would be lovely to have your company. I mean, that's the classic phrase used in radio, isn't it? Lovely to have your company. But it is. because it's all about connection, and specifically connecting and talking around stresses and strains as a human being. That's all it is. So let's talk. So if we're framing this around worries on uncertainty, the prospect of a possible problem, so the one that hasn't happened yet, that's going to send your stress levels a little bit higher, right? Because uncertainty is quite stressful. Some people thrive on it. I do from time to time, but usually I'm more stressed than anything, particularly if I know it's a meaningful thing. I mean, I can cope with watching the World Cup and the uncertainty there, but if it's anything deeper that could affect me existentially, I suppose what would, other than the World Cup, then it's a harder thing to manage. So worries are stressful, and worriers often worry that they worry too much, and that makes it worse, right? So why don't we talk some techniques this hour that could keep that worry in check? Again, I am by no means an expert in this. I've just taught psychology for 10 years, trained to teach mindfulness. I know a thing or two about mental health, but that is it. It's not therapy. It's just sharing insights. I do, a couple of hours research for this show. I've been a teacher for 10 years, so I know a thing or two about what it's like in the classroom. And that's all this is. Not preaching, not doing anything other than just talking with you right here on a Sunday. So you may have heard the worry tree before. The worry tree. So that's where you essentially place your worry on a tree and you pick it off when you have a moment to look at it. So that really comes from 1980s, actually. I traced it back. The American psychology professor, Thomas Borkovic, developed a 4-step therapy for excessive worrying. So setting aside a worry time. I don't think I can find any. I mean, I'm sure there's probably Buddhist slash mindful meditations that hold something of this idea, but I couldn't find anything in specifically clinical psychology that talks about the worry tree prior to the 1980s. So the principle is, if you worry throughout the day, you might also start to associate particular places with worry. So when you see those places, you start worrying. So to break the cycle, he identify which of your thoughts and feelings are worries. Set aside a time and a place where you think you will be, where you will be able to think about the worries, right? You can tell this radio show's live, right? And then if you find yourself worrying outside that time, postpone these thoughts until the assigned time. So that's the worry tree. And use the worry time to find solutions for the problems that are worrying you. So that's the classic way, isn't it? Because actually, when you're caught up in the worry, it's hard to do anything but think about it. And actually, the thinking tends to be driven by the emotion. I find if I'm particularly worried, if I have that anxiety, I neglect to attend to that feeling and I go straight into the overthinking. When actually, it's probably the other way around. If you notice that you're worried about something, you could just try attending to that worry, just noticing, yeah, I'm worried about that. And then bringing in your thinking by saying, well, I'm going to postpone that worry to the worry time. And actually 8 times out of 10, I was going to say 9 times out of 10, because there's a couple of occasions where it hasn't helped this week. I've actually had a bit of a shocker of a week again, by the way. I mean, the weather has helped. The World Cup has helped, but it's been a bit of a shocker of a week. So we'll talk about that. Have you got your coffee, by the way? I hope you have. I've already had 2. It's only 9:10. So yes, it does help a lot of the time. And the studies show that as well. So the steps that I've just gone over, developed by this American psychology professor in the 80s, you identify which of your thoughts and feelings are a worry. You set aside a time and a place where you think about the things that are worrying you. If you find yourself outside that time and place doing that, you postpone it until the assigned time and you use that worry time. Well, there is evidence to back up the success of this. 2011 Dutch study, volunteers felt calmer even if they tried just the first step. And if they used all 4, the worries decreased considerably. Worry tree. Sounds simple, doesn't it? But when you've had a stressful class, right, as a teacher, it's harder to do in practice. So Try it, see what you think, feed that back if you want to. I do it from time to time. As I say, it doesn't always work. That washing machine of worries going round and round and round does sometimes keep going. So we will talk more about that after we hear from our sponsors right here on TT Radio. So when we come back, we'll talk about the washing machine of worry. All to come right here. Stay with us.
As teachers, we know the barriers girls face go far beyond the classroom. That's why the FA and Barclays Made for This Game Breaking Barriers campaign is taking on two of the biggest barriers girls face today, misogyny and body confidence. Right now, 56% of teachers say they don't feel confident discussing these topics with their students, and that's exactly where this campaign can help. With free, easy-to-use resources and a podcast designed for busy teachers, Breaking Barriers gives you practical support to help start the conversations, creating more positive environments for girls in school, in sport, and beyond. It's time to empower girls to believe they belong. Go to girlsfootballinschools.org and click on Made for This Game.
In education, we all want recruitment to be fair and inclusive because the gender pay gap won't disappear without clear, practical steps in how we hire. Recent national research shows schools are already taking meaningful action. 40% of leaders now include pay or progression details in adverts. 35% highlight well-being support, and around 1 in 5 are using anonymised shortlisting to reduce bias. Teaching Vacancies, the Department for Education's free official job listing service, makes these steps easier with clear salary fields, flexible working filters, and an application format that supports blind recruitment. It also removes previous salary questions so candidates are assessed on their skills and experience rather than their past pay. For your next hire or your next role, go online and search Teaching Vacancies Gov UK.
This show is brought to you in partnership with Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit hachetlearning.com to explore the full range of titles.
You're listening to the Sunday Breakfast with Finn, and we're talking about how you break that worry cycle. Simple as that. Hope you're okay. So the washing machine of worry, obsessive worry is the next kind of thing. Because you can have worry about uncertainty, but sometimes it just keeps going round and round. So obsessive worry has been addressed by loads of psychologists. And obviously, obsessive worry can actually be related to mental health conditions as well. So OCD, and I tend to be quite careful about those for a whole variety of reasons. And that's not the topic of today. But obsessive worry itself is described by American psychologist William Doverspike as a negative spiral that grows deeper the more you stress over it and can become actually like a trance-like state. So you're probably going to recognize this pattern. You worry, right? You feel stressed by your worry. You believe the problem is even more worrying. You worry more. That's the cycle. So you worry when something stresses you. Your response to it is to essentially dwell on it. You feel stressed by that worry because it's an uncomfortable experience and makes you feel worse. You believe the problem is even more worrying. That's the cycle because you associate that thinking about it with feeling worse. So it must be bad, right? That's the idea. So that's the spiral. How do you break out of it? That's what we're talking about on a Sunday. That's what we're trying to address. How do you break the worry cycle? That's what we're thinking about. Breaking out the cycle, the spiral, however you want to call it, opening the washing machine door, takes a lot of mental energy, right? So it might be worth experimenting with some of these. Now, they're called sort of trance breakers. I'm not sure, actually, if William Doverspike was a hypnotherapist by trade, but trance language quite often is. So if you hear the language of trance, quite often that is associated with hypnotherapy. And this is not therapy. These are just bits of research. So trance breakers, change your environment. So go for a walk, Pay attention to your surroundings. That's one way of doing it. Just do something different. Create a different emotional mood. So listen to soothing music or watch an exciting movie. Engage in a hobby. So do something rewarding. Do something challenging. That's meant to be something that takes all of your emotional energy and you're solely focused on the challenging thing. That's quite useful, sort of taking you out of yourself kind of thing. Calming breathing exercises. I actually think the just breathe is probably the easiest and the simplest and the one that you can do at any point, because you yourself can actually control your breathing. So you have a stressful situation and you just say to yourself, you breathe in and you say the word just, and you breathe out and you say the word breathe. I really like that. Gives a bit of space, brings a bit of moment for you to bring in a bit of thinking where you can then maybe engage some of the other things to break out the spiral. Those things, again, change your environment. So change the behavior, create a different emotional mood, engage in a hobby, do something challenging. That could work. Solve a puzzle, if you like solving puzzles, for example. I suppose the opposite is maybe we should embrace uncertainty. So why don't we talk more about that, and then we'll hear from Joe Fox and today's news. Embracing uncertainty. So many psychologists recommend actually creating an activity or a sort of sheet to help you consider how you react to the unknown. So some of these are quite philosophical questions. There's about 8 or 9 of them. How has needing certainty helped or hindered me? Ask yourself that. Has certainty actually helped or hindered you in any way? And if it's hindered you, how do you tend to cope with that? And if you don't know what will happen, do you predict something bad? And how likely is it that bad things will happen? If there's a small chance, can you live with that? Are there uncertainties that you can tolerate? How do your friends and family cope with because it may be that you've got a good friend or a good family member who can really model how to cope with uncertainty. So that's a question. Is there anything you can learn from them? And can you apply those coping skills to different parts of life? Those are the sort of 9 things that I found that psychologists recommend. And you can almost write the answers. Why do we do that after the news? Write the answers down. Because Seth Gilligan said, worry isn't something worth what it can cost. After all, most of what we worry about never happens. Wasn't it Mark Twain as well, the writer, that said, we worry about so much, 90% of it will never happen, 10% will, or something along those lines. I've sort of butchered that quote, but you get what I mean. So much of the worry won't actually happen. We're overestimating the danger and underestimating our ability to cope. There it is. That's easy for you to say on a Sunday morning. Time for the news right here on Teachers Talk Radio. When we come back, we're going to talk about the sun in your classroom. Does it make that worry better? Simple question, but is there a simple answer? We'll talk more shortly. Stay with us.
As teachers,
right here.
We know the barriers girls face go far beyond the classroom. That's why the FA and Barclays Made for This Game Breaking Barriers campaign is taking on 2 of the biggest barriers girls face today: misogyny and body confidence. Right now, 56% of teachers say they don't feel confident discussing these topics with their students, and that's exactly where this campaign can help. With free, easy-to-use resources and a podcast designed for busy teachers, Breaking Barriers gives you practical support to help start the conversations, creating more positive environments for girls in school, in sport, and beyond. It's time to empower girls to believe they belong. Go to girlsfootballinschools.org and click on Made for This Game.
In education, we all want recruitment to be fair and inclusive, because the gender pay gap won't disappear without clear, practical steps in how we hire. Recent national research shows schools are already taking meaningful action. 40% of leaders now include pay or progression details in adverts. 35% highlight well-being support, and around 1 in 5 are using anonymised shortlisting to reduce bias. Teaching vacancies, the Department for Education's free official job listing service, makes these steps easier with clear salary fields, flexible working filters, and an application format that supports blind recruitment. It also removes previous salary questions so candidates are assessed on their skills and experience rather than their past pay. For your next hire or your next role, go online and search Teaching Vacancies Gov UK.
This show is brought to you in partnership with Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit hachetlearning.com to explore the full range of titles.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
Schools Week reports on delays to SATs marking, with maths markers drafted in to assist with grammar, punctuation and spelling tests. Contractor Pearson sought the support after what Schools Week reports as weeks of technical glitches on the new ModMark marking platform. Pearson took over the £180 million SATs contract from Capita this year. The marking deadline had already been extended, but the article says that tens of thousands of questions remained unmarked. The same publication also reports that a considerable reduction to the amount schools contribute to teachers' pensions is highly likely following a revaluation of the scheme by ministers. According to the article, teachers' contributions and pension pots are not expected to change. Schools currently pay a fee equivalent to 28.6% of teachers' wages every year into the teachers' pension scheme. Skills Minister Jackie Smith said the rate is expected to drop and any change would come into effect next April and would remain in place for 4 years. News of the anticipated savings schools will make comes as the sector waits for the government's decision on teacher pay for September. The BBC covers the story of a private tutor who charged money to sit dozens of exams for students and submit coursework for them. The man has been jailed for 3 years after the scam earned him £300,000. He sat the assignments and tests for more than 120 students at Liverpool John Moores University, but was caught after a student handed in a USB drive containing suspicious coursework to a professor in the university's School of Computer Science and Mathematics. Finally, the BBC Scotland News website covers the story of a private school in Moray, which will close due to financial pressures. The school in Fors was co-founded by Oscar-winning actress Tilda Swinton and focused on more alternative, practical learning rather than pupils sitting tests. Trustees have announced that its kindergarten would finish at the end of June, following the closure of its upper and lower school provision earlier this year. A spokesperson for the trustees said that the VAT on school fees policy brought in by government had been hard to bear and that they had not been able to establish the financial foundations necessary to continue. This has been Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
Thank you, Joe. Hope you're okay. It's the Sunday breakfast with Finn. And you can't have a radio show without the weather. So it's going to be really, we're talking about the weather next, so it does all link. See, it's as if I planned the show. It's as if it's been planned. So, I know what I'm doing, just about. Today's going to be dry, fine, long spells of sunshine, few patches of cloud. Tomorrow, it's dry and clear throughout. It's going to be warm and muggy night. On Monday, we're going to have another dry and hot day with loads and loads of sunshine. There's a chance for the odd shower later in the evening. The outlook for Tuesday to Thursday, it's going to remain hot and very hot and humid through the middle of the week. There'll be extensive spells of sunshine, and it will be dry throughout. So before we talk fully about the weather, why don't we take a look at the papers? But before we do, let's hear from our sponsors right here on TT Radio. We'll then take a look at the Sunday papers. If you're just waking up, you need not do anything more than have us on in the background. Simple as that.
As teachers, we know the barriers girls face go far beyond the classroom. That's why the FA and Barclays Made for This Game Breaking Barriers campaign is taking on two of the biggest barriers girls face today: misogyny and body confidence. Right now, 56% of teachers say they don't feel confident discussing these topics with their students, and that's exactly where this campaign can help. With free, easy-to-use resources and a podcast designed for busy teachers, Breaking Barriers gives you practical support to help start the conversations, creating more positive environments for girls in school, in sport, and beyond. It's time to empower girls to believe they belong. Go to girlsfootballinschools.org and click on Made for This Game.
In education, we all want recruitment to be fair and inclusive because the gender pay gap won't disappear without clear, practical steps in how we hire. Recent national research shows schools are already taking meaningful action. 40% of leaders now include pay or progression details in adverts. 35% highlight well-being support, and around 1 in 5 are using anonymised shortlisting to reduce bias. Teaching vacancies, the Department for Education's free official job listing service, makes these steps easier with clear salary fields, flexible working filters, and an application format that supports blind recruitment. It also removes previous salary questions so candidates are assessed on their skills and experience rather than their past pay. For your next hire or your next role, go online and search Teaching Vacancies Gov UK.
This show is brought to you in partnership with Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit hachetlearning.com to explore the full range of titles.
Outstanding and world-class vision and world-class this.
I'm a real
And with
leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole career reading books and chatting to people.
I just find the whole thing and the announcement, the way it's been announced, bizarre.
If you could move away from a model where teachers are so intensely focused.
We're back. We're here. It's the Sunday breakfast with Finn. Let's take a look at today's papers then. So if you've just woken up and you're thinking, what am I going to do in my tutor time tomorrow? I've got you covered. See, we don't just talk, we also plan. The Sunday papers then, shall we take a look at that? Of course, they focus on what you might expect, but we'll talk more about Starmer and everything in between. Sunday Telegraph, actually. So Starmer is ready to resign, allies say. So that is their headline. Labour's leadership struggles as they, most of the papers actually have this as a focus. Starmer could announce his departure date as early as tomorrow, a Labour MP has told the Telegraph. So according to another senior government figure who spoke to the paper, the Prime Minister is realising that the game is up. Their words. Meanwhile, King Charles is pictured waving to crowds, also on this paper, while at the Royal Ascot in Berkshire. Is that going on now, Royal Ascot? I thought that was earlier in the year. Where am I thinking of another one? Anyway, he's been pictured waving in Berkshire on Saturday, but the story concerns his personal tax bill being released for the first time. So talk about that with your pupils. Probably the Starmer one. I played actually Andy Burnham's, or a bit of Andy Burnham's victory speech on Friday and asked for thoughts. And I sort of said, look, these are some of the predictions. The predictions suggest that this man will be the next leader of this country in the next year. That's what I said. I just put that on the table. I said, that's what the predictions suggest. Your thoughts? We had quite an interesting discussion. Actually, it was the most attentive my form had been. So it just shows it's very easy to sort of say, our pupils aren't interested in politics, because actually you can engage. The Observer, they think it's all over. Starmer expected to resign tomorrow. So Sir Keir expected to resign. That's their headline. According to the paper, the Prime Minister accepts his position is no longer tenable. I think at the moment, isn't he? He's enjoying just some time with his family in Chequers. Isn't that what he's doing at the moment? So Monday, I suppose, all eyes will be on number 10 Downing Street. Andy Burnham on this paper is pictured playing football on the front page, and apparently has been backed by a majority of Labour MPs. Now, here's an interesting thing then. If that happens, what effect will it have on the education sector? There's something you could think about. Maybe, just a thought. Sunday Times, they've got leading story. Burnham might do what Burnham might do with the cabinet if he becomes Prime Minister. So they are going into pretty much a lot of detail in terms of what to expect from Andy Burnham if he becomes Prime Minister. The paper claims Rachel Reeves will be sacked as the Chancellor. So Burnham, of course, won the Macclesfield by-election on Thursday and has helped pave the way for him to challenge Sir Keir for the party leadership. So that's the Observer's story, similar to most of them. The Sunday Mirror headlines on the historic royal move by King Charles in releasing his personal tax return, Britain's first monarch to do so in modern times. The King's payment will be shared on Thursday. Why is it always on a Thursday? So you got a by-election last Thursday. Next Thursday, you got England to play. Well, England actually played Tuesday. You will get to the World Cup. Are you following it? So the King's taxpayer payment will be shared on Thursday as a bid to modernise the monarchy after a year of controversy. The Mail, Kemi, why I will never do a deal with Farage or Farage, depending on how you pronounce it. So that is the Mail's headline. Kemi Badenoch has stood down any prospect of working with Nigel Farage's Reform UK. Following Reform UK's poor showing in last week's by-election, the Tory leader has written a column for the newspaper in which she says about the two parties, we're not the same and voters are not ours to trade like football cards. We love these football comparisons. Anyone would notice there's a World Cup on. The Sun on Sunday, Clarkson, I'm in remission. So this is TV presenter Jeremy Clarkson revealed he's in remission from aggressive prostate cancer. Don't know if you've been watching Clarkson's Farm. That was the big revelation that he made. 66-year-old had a test 2 months ago which showed the tumour's gone. So that's what the paper says. They call him actually the much loved television star. Is he much loved? There's a bigger question. So in remission, though, from aggressive prostate cancer, the Sun columnist, 66, had a test 2 months ago, which showed that the tumour had gone. Last night, Jezza, that's their term, not mine, told fans, I've decided to be one of the 60% who doesn't have a recurrence. So that is Jeremy Clarkson and cancer. Sunday People, what went so wrong? Key questions after crash that killed driver and injured 100. So the Sunday People asking that question following a train crash in Bedford on Friday that killed the driver and injured 100 passengers. The paper also pictures an official wedding photo from the pop star Dua Lipa and the actor Callum Turner. Daily Star. Now I would like one of these. In fact, this is interesting. Free Tuchel toupee. Interesting. I think it's a cutout, isn't it? It's not actually, it's just a cutout. But you can get yourself one of those with the Daily Star. Their headline, Kane and Disable, is their headline. So according to Daily Star, there's a witch doctor in Ghana trying to meddle with World Cup results. So Nana Kwa Bonsam has said he's going to put a curse on England's Harry Kane in a bid to help Ghana win on Tuesday. Yeah, not sure about that. Something to talk about with your pupils, though, if managed carefully. I remember when I used to teach RE, we broached the topic of witchcraft in a Year 8 lesson. And it's incredibly complex, isn't it? Because there are parts of witchcraft that are connected to what some people would term as religion. And you can get yourself in if you're not careful, you can get yourself in an incredibly complex sort of whirl of thoughts and debates. And so, so maybe bracket, I don't know. You choose. You're probably a better professional than me, but those are the Sunday papers right here on your Sunday. You're listening to the Sunday Breakfast with Finn. We're going to talk more about the Sun and worry, not the Sun newspaper. We've talked about that. But we're going to talk more about the way in which you can essentially use the Sun to help you, using the Sun to help you. Let's call this section of the show De-Stress Your Thinking. That's what we'll do.
Outstanding, a world-class vision, a world-class this.
I'm a real leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole career reading books and chatting to people.
I just find the whole thing and the announcement, the way it's been announced, bizarre.
If you could move away from a model where teachers are so intensely focused.
You are listening to the live educational conversation on Teachers Talk Radio. Of course, it's live, made many mistakes. But the great radio presenter, Steve Wright, when he made a mistake, he'd just make it part of the show. And that is definitely part of my ethos. Just make it part of the show. We all make mistakes. Same in lessons, right? When you make a mistake, we're all human. Let's just keep going. Because the strive for perfection, as we talked about before, is an unhealthy striving. So how to de-stress your thinking? Well, the Sun does help. Right? Do you find that? If you disagree with that, do feel free to just send me a comment in the box. If you're listening again, obviously you can't do that on Podbean, but you can always catch me again next Sunday. Actually, am I off next Sunday? No, I'm not off next Sunday. So I have a show with you next Sunday, the Sunday after that, the Sunday after that, and the Sunday after that. And then it's the summer break. So I am off from late July until sort of mid-August. But we've got a full back catalogue of shows, so you can certainly check those out on ttradio.org. And there are loads of fantastic shows on offer, not just mine, although mine's the best. Right. What are we talking about? De-stressing your thinking. So the Sun helps, doesn't it? Stressful situations happen to everyone. But do you ever convince yourself that things are actually worse than they really are? Well, of course you do. You probably heard of the power of CBT. And that can actually be quite powerful in some respects to keep things in perspective. So it's a commonly recommended form of talk therapy. And it's yes, the NHS are big on it. 2012 review, I think it was the Cochrane review, I want to say, several hundred studies, including patients treated for a variety of mood disorders and other mental illnesses. And there is a very strong evidence base for CBT being very effective, particularly as a technique to reduce stress levels considerably. So if you're prone to having distressive thoughts, you can develop the art of catching them before they make you too unhappy. Catch it, check it, change it. See it, say it, sorted. But the 3 C's of CBT are meant to be catch it, check it, change it. Because that's the thing, negative thoughts can just whirl round and round and round in your head. And actually, they're not true. What's the other thing people say? Fear is false evidence appearing real. Catch it, check it, change it. The 3 C's. So catch your negative thought, challenge it, or check it. Well, let's just do it one at a time. The power of 3. I'm getting ahead of myself already. So try this. Catch it, check it, change it. So the 10 common cognitive distortions, these are the things that CBT list as being particularly problematic. So ways of thinking that make things seem a lot worse than they actually are. So if your thinking often contains cognitive distortions, you could try this then. So there's loads of cognitive distortions going on. All or nothing, overgeneralizing, mental filter, disqualifying the positive, jumping to conclusions, maximizing, minimizing, emotional reasoning, the should statements, labeling, mislabeling, and personalizing. Those are all the cognitive distortions that can be going on. So, well, what's the quote I've written down? I've scribbled a quote down. Let's see if I can read my own writing. Dr. Frank Giannassi said he's an associate professor of psychiatry in the University of Pittsburgh. Our emotions start with our interpretations of other events. So it's those interpretations that become problematic. So it's not always the event itself, but it's the interpretation of the event that makes it a bit of a problem. So catch it, check it, change it, see it, say it, sort it. I better stop saying that, the latter one, because that actually was a slogan, wasn't it, on on TFL? And if I'm not careful, Teachers Talk Radio won't become Teachers Talk Radio anymore. It will be TFL Radio. So crucially not. I do not work. Of course, I don't work for TFL. And you can absolutely tell this radio show is planned and not planned and live and is full of side notes and things. So catch it, check it, change it is the thing we're talking about. So you notice the thought, you catch it, you check it, you're thinking, right, which of those cognitive distortions could it be? All or nothing, overgeneralizing, mental filter, disqualifying the positive, jumping to conclusions, maximizing, minimizing, emotional reasoning, should statements, labeling and mislabeling, personalizing. I had a tricky interaction this week, right? So there's probably a lot of what I could have done in this cognitive troubleshooting that would have helped me. And I'm really glad and privileged even to be able to talk with you about this on a Sunday. So it was a tricky interaction. That's all I'll say, because this isn't Gossip 101. But it was a tricky interaction. And there was probably something I could have done by catching my thoughts, checking my thoughts, and changing it. So I could have just sort of said, whoa, hang on a second. Am I not going with the all or nothing here? Am I not disqualifying the positive of part of that conversation? Am I jumping to conclusions? Am I maximizing, minimizing? Am I emotionally reasoning? Am I labeling, mislabeling? Am I personalizing? Right? So catching the negative thought is key. If you catch it, you're actually doing quite a good job. So you identify the thought that's bothering you. You know, the classic example, I've taken on too many projects. I'll miss my deadline and I'll look bad to all of my clients. So you catch it, catch the thought. And ask yourself, I suppose, in the checking, how much do you actually believe that thought? And then change the thought, consider some alternative interpretations. So with that one, I've met deadlines before. You know, I've planned that lesson before. I've taught that lesson before. And then look at the evidence as calmly as possible if you can. And then ask yourself again, how much you believe the upsetting thought. I don't really like the check it, because checking, I suppose you need the C. It's the 3 C's. Catch it, check it, change it. Catch it, challenge it. I want to go with catch it. I suppose check it just allows you to sort of try and step back and say, whoa, hang on. What's my distortion? And then the change is where you challenge it. Because the more, so the evidence suggests, you work on catching and reframing cognitive distortions, the easier it will be. And eventually it's going to become your new normal. That's the hope with CBT. As to whether it works, I think the evidence suggests that it can work, but there's a whole variety of things that you could try. And as I say, this is by no means therapy. I wouldn't be qualified to give therapy. I'm just a psychology teacher by trade and a radio presenter at night. And that's all this is. But I suppose we could do some worked examples. Why don't we do that? Why don't we do some worked examples? Feel free, by the way, to share in the comments. There's loads of people listening. So feel free to share in the comments if you wish, about what works for you, if anything. It'd be lovely to hear something that works for you in the classroom, if anything. Maybe nothing works, but I assure you that something might. There's always hope, isn't there, in some respects, realistic hope. So all or nothing, what's that cognitive distortion? What's that? What's going on with all or nothing? Have you got an example of an all or nothing thought that could work for this? I just wrote, I failed one of my exams. I'm an idiot. Or I've done a really bad lesson. I am the worst thing in the world. Something like that. So in theory, you catch that thought. You check that thought. Maybe you put the label, that's all or nothing. And then change it, reframe it. Ask yourself, is there an alternative way of seeing things? You look for the thoughts that fit the facts and that make you feel better. So reframe with an alternative explanation. So that was a tough paper for everyone. And then some counter evidence to support that reframing. So Gina and Leo failed too, for example. Let's just make up some names. Let's not make it personal here. They usually do well, right? So if we're taking that example, I failed one of my exams. I'm an idiot. The reframe, that was tough paper for everyone. And the evidence to support that, 2 other colleagues. Let's go with Stephen and Stephanie, or Gina and Leo. They failed too. They usually do well. How about that? Overgeneralizing is the next one. Do you do that? I definitely do that. So if it happens once, this is how it will always be. That's my overgeneralization. So an example, this class was problematic. Every class is going to be like that. So you catch the thought. You check the thought. And then change it. The power of 3. So the changing, the reframe for that would be, well, this class was tough. But maybe not every class will be that. You know, but actually, they often say the but actually is a way of challenging. Or but luckily. So this class was tough, but luckily I only see them once a fortnight. I got time to prepare for the next one. And then your evidence or your counter evidence to support that reframing is just look at your timetable and see you only see that class once a fortnight. If your timetable is, we just moved actually as a school from lessons, a weekly timetable to a fortnightly timetable. It's so interesting because I've worked in education for 10 years and worked in the schools where we have had that fortnightly timetable. And then I worked in this school that I'm currently at, which had a weekly timetable, and it just felt so much easier. And then we moved to the fortnightly timetable, and it's just been a bit of a mess. I still don't know what I've got tomorrow without looking at my timetable. So that's overgeneralizing. What about the next one? Mental filter. So that's where you catch yourself. You check though, or what am I filtering here? So that's, by the way, you focus on the negative detail, screening out the wider context. That's the idea with that one. That's the mental filter. So, for example, I had a tricky conversation. The colleague said one thing to me in a whole host of other things, and I focused on that negative detail. So I filtered out everything else. The idea with that is you reframe with an alternative, right? So that's the changing. You know, there were a lot of things said in that conversation. And the counter evidence is you list the things that were said. What do you think about that? These are all just tools for the toolbox, by the way. Next one, disqualifying the positive. Apologies if you can hear drinking in the background. That's because I'm sipping my cold coffee. Disqualifying the positive. This next one. So what does that look like? Well, it's where you find ways to write off good news and positive feedback. And I do brush it off because actually in the conversation that I had last week, I was told that this observation, that was given, went really well. And I did some outstanding teaching. They actually said those words, right? And this is a senior person saying it to me. But because it was in the context of some other stuff, which was pretty negative, I dismissed all of that. I was like, yeah, I can do the day job. Let's get back to talking about the negative. So that was me. That was me this week. And had I caught myself, had I checked myself, and had I changed, I still don't like the word checking. But I guess it is what we do, isn't it? It's what we do as teachers. So had I done that, I could have actually, yeah. So basically, it was a boss saying I did well. And I just sort of brushed it. But I could have changed that thought and said, well, actually, they mean what they're saying there. And I know that they're truthful. Why assume that there's a false compliment going on there? But I didn't. But I'm talking with you now. I'm fixing it. So that's the disqualifying the positive. I mean, do you relate to this? Is this helping? Does this make sense? Hopefully it does. Jumping to conclusions. So that's where you sort of predict a disaster. You know, I've been given an informal conversation. This will become formal. I'm going to get sacked. You jump to conclusions. So you check your thought as a solution, and you can try and change it. Maximizing, minimizing, that's another one. Linked, isn't it, to jumping to conclusions. So bad news is a disaster. It's a catastrophe. Yeah, it's often called catastrophizing thoughts. Good news, no big deal. Emotional reasoning, another one. These are all distortions that we all do from time to time. They're all here. They're all here. We're all imperfect. So yeah, emotional reasoning. Taking your feelings for facts. That's big. I do that. And actually, in a high-stress environment, it's very easy to get in the midst of doing that, isn't it? Do you ever find if you've had a really relaxing weekend somewhere and you come back from that weekend, things feel a bit lighter? That's probably because you're less emotionally engaged in your reasoning than you were before. Should statements, so you impose rules on yourself. Labeling and mislabeling, so thinking one action sums everything up. And personalizing, so blaming yourself if things go wrong. And that's very easy as well to do. I've had a really difficult half term, and I could take some of what went wrong, but I can't take all of it because I'm not to blame for all of it. But it's very easy for me to do. It's just part of who I am. Yeah. Big sigh there, but that's personalizing. So, you know, this conversation went wrong and it's all because of me. Well, you could reframe it and you could say, I did some missteps, but actually it's not just my own to bear. And then the counter evidence for that is, well, these are the issues that have been faced. So that's stepping stone, isn't it? The power of three. Philosophical. Didn't expect it to get that philosophical on the final bit of today's show. It's been an absolute pleasure keeping you company, as it always is on a Sunday. When we come back next week, why don't we talk about the link between discomfort and danger? Because some stress in life is inevitable. Some stress as a teacher is inevitable. So just knowing when to seek help and when not, and when you can cope with it yourself, might be something good to talk about next week. Why don't we do that on next week's show? And if you think, no, I want to talk about something else, then feel free. Or come and join the show. Come and join the show. Come and talk. Feel free. Send me a message. As I say, we've got loads of shows coming up, not just today, but throughout the week. So you got the Twilight Show with Paula on Monday. She's talking about pedagogy before technology. So exploring technology, learning and decision-making in schools. The AI revolution. It's helping. I mean, I'm all for it, if I'm honest. There's my opinion. You got the Late Show on Friday. September starts now. The legacy of term 6. Oh, that's a miserable prospect. I suppose we are, isn't it? I talked a couple of weeks ago. Sometimes this side of the term can be even busier than the other times, because at least when you're teaching, you're in the moment, reacting to the moment-to-moment experience of your classroom. And when you're not, because you've got a bit of gained time, but I think we should change the word gained time, because you're not actually gaining time. And you're also not a thief. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but some schools sort of say, oh, and in your gained time, as if you are responsible for just, it's almost framed as a bad thing that this is what you've got. You've got to hide it. But where was I with that? Yeah, I don't really always see it as game time, because I've often found myself busier this side of the year than I have before. But as I said at the start of the show, the weather helps. The weather definitely helps. But anyway, that is what Sarah is talking about on Friday. What other shows have we got coming up on the radio? So today at 8 o'clock, Teaching as Scholarship, Why Great Teaching Deserves Greater Recognition. Well, this is the age-old debate. There's a guest on, Dr. Franja Hall. But it's the age-old debate, isn't it? The fact that so much of the system doesn't really value teachers in the way that perhaps we should and could. So lots of great shows, actually. Some really great shows. So if you do want to listen to any of those, you absolutely can. There are some fantastic things out there. And they've got the full back catalogue of shows. I'm just looking at another one now. One that was on Thursday, Twilight Show. This is with Tony. Inspiring or demoralizing, our thoughts on effective leadership. I might listen to that, actually, because I have a lot of thoughts around that, both myself as a leader, but others as well. It's very easy, isn't it, to blame leadership? Sometimes because it's justified, but other times, I suppose it's easy to just really get yourself into something. The washing machine of worry, the washing machine of blame, when really you could try and zoom out. Anyway, I'll see what they say on that. That's something to think about. So I'll be back next Sunday at exactly the same time, and we will be talking about how there might be a link between discomfort and danger, and how to identify when you cross into danger and when it's just pure discomfort that you can grit, bear, and maybe learn from. So I'll be looking forward to talking about that with you next Sunday. As I say, I hope you have a lovely week and it doesn't get too hot in the classroom. And if it does, then just know 3 weeks, isn't it, until summer? If you're a state school, if you're an independent school. Yeah, some independent schools have already broken up. We need to talk about that. That's a topic for another day. Some independent schools already broken up. Can't believe it. I'll see you soon. Next Sunday, in fact, on TT Radio. And we'll talk more then.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.
Back next Sunday. You've been listening to the Sunday Breakfast with Finn. See you very soon.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.
Outstanding and world-class vision and world-class this.
I'm a real leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole career reading books and chatting to people.
I just find the whole thing and the announcement, the way it's been announced, bizarre.
If you could move away from a model where teachers are so intensely focused.